Wonton Soup Omnibus by James Stokoe, edited by James Lucas Jones and Douglas Sherwood, digital production Keith Wood, designed by Jason Story, published by Oni Press, released July 2nd, 2014. When I saw this title, I had hoped that this wasn't some white dude culturally appropriating an Asian story or something like that, which is safe to say, this wasn't. And with that landmine totally avoided, how well does this story of a space trucker who is apparently a genius chef stack up? Well, that's a matter of opinion. If you like this sort of review and content, do the YouTube thing, help feed the algorithm, grow the channel, and all that fun stuff, and here we go. So, this is a black and white comic, somewhat odd for a US comic book. I know it says Oni, like the Japanese Oni, but this is strictly American. They're from Portland after all, part of that independent comic book scene. So it doesn't mean that they necessarily follow the big two in terms of style, being independent, but the style, which is heavily influenced by Japanese manga, of style, inking, and texture, and the use of screen tone for shading is unique. It doesn't grip me personally, but it is competent to say at the best, so I'm giving it a star. I may not have personally enjoyed it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't deserve any credit. The panels are simplistic, which again follows the manga style with enough variation to break things up. That being said, the expression is the part that lacks punch. Though it is influenced by that manga style, it doesn't seem to follow the flow that manga has. Mind you, this is a comedy genre, so you're not going to have that same kind of flow from a dramatic story or an action-filled story, but nevertheless, it lacks that expressional punch of big emotions. I'm going to give this a half a star. It got the panels, but I don't think it has the expression part very well. It follows Johnny Boyo and Deacon Vans, and they have character, I guess, and they do have distinct dialogue. Johnny is the somewhat aloof chef, and Deacon is a junkie, but not a bad one. Nothing of the dialogue was riveting. It felt more meandering than anything. They were relevant to whatever was happening within the panels, but much like the previous categories, it wasn't exactly riveting. I'm going to give it a star. I think I'm being generous here, but it certainly wasn't riveting. Okay, so there are themes of self-expression and finding oneself throughout this, and I also think that there are jokes here too. Though it might be relevant to the author of the book, I have to say that the themes here are probably not the strongest point of the book. Like I mentioned with the dialogue, there's a lot of meandering going on. There's barely a question asked, much less a answer, and with 375 pages, that's a whole lot of spinning in a circle, so to speak. No stars. I mean, it almost felt like you're talking with a junkie. There's a lot of air and not much substance. Also, not a whole lot of plot here either. I mean, like everything else, it was very much meandering. We follow our main character, Johnny Boyo, who is on a journey through space because he's a space trucker while he cooks. And unlike the much better done Food Wars or Shokugeki no Soma, the cooking here makes very little sense. I mean, it's one thing to use ingredients that's found on Earth that people don't usually use, like, A5 Wagyu beef or bear meat. But one can explain that stuff a lot better than whatever space ingredients the story uses. And it makes it feel empty. And then the title of Wonton Soup makes an appearance of maybe the first chapter and never heard from again. So what are the stakes here? There's hardly any tension whatsoever. So for that, I'm giving this no stars, a whole lot of nothing, to be honest. As terms of substance, they may be in a later volume, I don't know, but this volume certainly didn't invest me enough to go through the sequels. 2.5 stars. Biggest issue I had with this book has everything to do with the writing. And here's the thing, I'm pretty sure this whole story makes sense to James Stokoe, or Stokoe. but I doubt many others can make sense of it. And here's the thing. James Stokoe is a very good artist. He's worked in the big two, Marvel and DC, along with other independent comics, but this personal project, which this may have been, and I'm pretty sure he worked very hard on it, does not have a broad appeal. It just doesn't have it. And don't get me wrong, it is admirable that he wrote and illustrated this book. There's really no fault with the inking, or at least not in any way that gets super subjective. But what sells any book is the story, and this one just didn't have that much. I mean, as far as cooking genres are concerned, it's kind of a stiff competition, because not only are you dealing with, whatever we have in the US, which isn't all that much, but you're dealing with the top shelf of Japan as well. Shokugeki no Soma, Food Wars by Yuto Tsukuda, illustrated by Shun Saiki, basically started a new boom in cooking genre in the comic book world, but by no means is that the only one that's popular. Maiko-san no Chi no Makanai-san, or in the English title, Kyo in Kyoto from the Maiko house. A lot more slower pace, but certainly is interesting. The izakaya cooking, like Isekai Izakaya Nobu or Tondemo Skill de Isekai Horo Meshi or Isekai Ryorido. Heck, there's even a Superman one where he goes around eating food in Japan. And, these cover a wide range of genres beyond the cooking. So this book can easily get overshadowed, and that's just only within the genre of cooking. And considering that there are many comics, manga included, that have other elements of other genres as well, such as comedy or drama, they're usually a hybrid. This book is simply outpaced by the work done by those in the land of the rising sun. Is it a fair comparison? Yes it is. Because the comparison is going to be made. That is a fact. And because many of this genre's manga is available in the States, why pick up this one, which is a sci-fi comedy cooking, when you could pick up something that is fantasy comedy cooking with drama, like Dungeon Meshi or Food in the Dungeon or something like that one. Just because this one's sci-fi doesn't make it that much unique, because there's nothing sciencey about the cooking. You could easily turn whatever this story was into some fantasy setting, like that Dungeon Meshi one, and it wouldn't change a thing as far as the story progresses. And there's basically no stakes in this whatsoever. Sorry for the downer of the review, but I think honesty is key here. I usually don't like being negative, I really don't, but this one, wasn't that much good things to say about it, to be honest. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you do, like, subscribe, do the YouTube thing, help feed the algorithm, help grow the channel, and I hope you are having a good day or good evening. Ciao, everybody.